We're live.
Well, hey everybody.
Live's a whole lot better than being dead.
Welcome to Jazz Cabbage Cafe. It's a Tuesday.
Yep.
We are apparently not dead.
We are back in the Cave Radio studio for the second week, and we're still on Facebook Live. Colin is in studio on the boards with me, and we're trying this out again. I hope I can be heard okay. It's hard to tell, but sounds a little bit better than last week. I think we're a little bit better set up. We improve a little bit every week. We'll get there. But I'm waiting for this music to go. There it goes. Thank you. All right. You know, not perfectly smooth, but pretty good. Anyway, we got another, I think, really good show coming up today. I appreciate everybody listening in and participating with us on this panel. Maybe some more people will pop in along the way. But we got a couple of great guests. Another candidate for a state house representative seat. It's like our fourth. We'll try to have a few more on and other types of elected positions to let the people know about who they should be voting for. And we have a representative from National NORML today too, which is going to be pretty cool. We'll give her a better. That's Jenn Michelle Pedini. We'll give her a better introduction for her segment, and there's going to be some really interesting stuff there. And before we get started, I just want to bring up something that I talked about before. And that is, there seems to be a series of these reports, kind of guised as studies, that show up in different forms and essentially have the same message. Cannabis can do some stuff, but it is kind of dangerous. So we got to be pretty restrictive and regulated about it and stuff. And there's another one that I just read about recently. I have not read through it. The University of Michigan participated with it, CDC and some other stuff, and it refers to cannabis deaths in it and some other crap like that. So I see the continuation of this pattern. There's a building of pseudo evidence to claim that probably we need to keep heavier regulations around for longer. Maybe to slow down the nature of people seeing the nature of cannabis and naturally, easing restrictions on it, which I think is what we all believe should be going down. And we started off a little restrictive, but then we're able just to peel that back as it gets going. Anyway, I guess I'm gonna turn this over to Rick in a second. I'm interested in
Audio's raw.
I'm sorry, can you hear me still?
No, the audio was real bad. I couldn't make out anything you were saying.
It's still audible, but it's not as clear as normal.
I got it. So I guess I just like to hear from people. This particular group, is cannabis as safe as we think it is? And if not, what do we need to caution people about? Rick, what do you think about that?
Well, cannabis is not as safe as I think Jamie thinks it is. I can tell you I suffer from cannabis emesis syndrome. I oftentimes have illnesses caused from cannabis too much. I think we often see people that dab too much and have consequences, people that have too many medibles and have consequences. We do have to warn people about dosing. I don't think that the cannabis itself is detrimental to the human being, but I do think it's irresponsible to say that there's nothing that can harm you about cannabis ever. Not that Jamie's ever said that, but the point being that there are some issues to be concerned with. Did you want to retort, Jamie, before I kick it over to Deb?
No, I mean, I that's a little bit too far for me, but that's fine. I mean, I would say like the thing where the edibles and misjudging that type of thing is something I would definitely warn people about.
So that's defined as harm.
The other stuff I'm not necessarily in line with, but I am interested in what everybody thinks about it.
Yep, sure. And Deb Young, of course, you've been doing medibles, edibles, and all kinds of ubles.
Yeah, I think that all the propaganda that we heard, all the screeching and the carrying on about how society was just going to explode and fall apart once legalization hit, and people were going to be overdosing from edibles and the devil's oil and all this stuff. None of this has happened, Rick. I understand there's individual instances, but we don't really hear anything happening. I believe that on the whole, cannabis is safe. As any substance, as anything, you're going to want to, some people are going to be maybe a little more sensitive than others, but I don't think any of the stuff that they said was going to happen has happened. If anything, I think it's more mellow than even I would have expected. And you don't hear instances of teenagers overdosing on medibles and this going on and people going crazy. So, you know, I kind of agree with Jamie. I find it to be a very safe substance, and I don't think it's really put any type of strain on society at all once it's legalized.
I'd agree with the no strain on society. I'd also agree that the number of people that use cannabis versus the number of negative reactions is really small. Lots, millions of people use cannabis all the time, and we very rarely hear about things. Jim, Salame, you got a lot of experience with psychedelics and cannabis too. What does your experience tell you about this question at hand? Jim, I think you're on mute, my brother.
Thank you very much. I have to agree with, you know, everybody here in some form or another. I think moderation is important. That's for anything that you're going to take. And then if you're going to use cannabis, it's like, do you want to use it on a regular basis, or are you only going to use it when you think you might need it? Because, you know, there's so much science to it. And I think what holds people back in a lot of ways and adds the fear to it is not doing the research on the endocannabinoid system. And they almost give themselves their own placebo by reading some of these, you know, more fear-based articles on cannabis. So I think that the biggest thing is, you know, try it, do it in moderation. It's a harmless, non-toxic plant that can actually help you. And if it works, great. But moderation obviously is, I think, a big key to this.
One of the things we see is that people oftentimes will take a grain of information, and then when viewed through their particular lens, they see it to represent whatever they wanted it to represent. And oftentimes those things can be misrepresented. And then we have stories that run across the internet that are really damaging. Colin MacDougall, I see you over there doing the hand twist. You know, cannabis, sometimes something to be a little cautious about, right?
Definitely. I think that, like you said, Rick, sometimes people do kind of have like this, and I feel like I have it a little bit, especially like after I eat. I don't want to like smoke cannabis like right away. Usually it kind of can like make my stomach a little upset. But I know a couple people who do a lot of dabs and have had similar, more severe problems. It's called the hypermesis system. I'm not sure. It's cannabis hypermesis syndrome, I think is what it's called. But for the most part, the worst experience I've ever had is just eating too much medibles, and they could just be overwhelming like that. When I worked as a bartender, I remember these older women would come in like once a month, and one time they told me that their husband like didn't listen to what I had told him and ate too much of a brownie, and he was like stuck on the ground for like a little while. And
things happen, but nobody died.
It's scary
right?
if you don't know what's going on.
And it just I would just caution people who are especially new to it about taking the right amount. But overall, I think that cannabis is pretty much harmless, and everything that I was taught, like growing up, about drugs, and I just lumped marijuana in that. All of those like negative rumors about it came out to be false. From what I've been studying.
That's been the issue for a while. It's on the list.
Did his own research and proved the facts that all those things were false.
Well, in America, we're all about graduated risks. You know, is this more risky than that? Is that more risky than this? Which do we approve? Which do we deny? When you start looking at the entire list of controlled substances, cannabis doesn't even deserve to be there. There are so many items that are more dangerous. We've talked about this all the time. Aspirin kills people. Too much water kills people. Too much cannabis, not killing people. So in America, the big contradiction of Schedule 1 just makes it impossible for me to take everything government says seriously. Some things I take seriously, some things I can verify with my own eyes, but they perpetuate a lie, and that means they can't be trusted all the time.
I agree. It definitely does not belong on the list anywhere. And the discussion used to be, can we get it dropped to a Schedule 2 or something like that? Every time it goes down, it has lesser penalties. So I suppose that's good, but it's still inappropriate for it to be anywhere on there. None of the descriptions really match up with it.
Schedule none, right? Schedule
Right.
none, just
Yeah.
off.
Schedule none, and then the legislature will pass a bill that says that's the harshest schedule it could possibly be.
Flip-flop the standard.
Yeah.
Well, again, the drug war itself was predicated on falsehoods and misinformation and racism and a quest for power by those who already had it. So it's difficult for us to find logic in the behaviors of the drug war or in the rules that were created in order to maintain it. So those fetters are something America is going to have to shed over time. And we can only hope to be part of the solution that helps to get rid of some of those things, both statewide and on a federal basis. Everyone on this call, Jim, Colin, the rest of us, we've all been involved in legalization locally and statewide. Those are enduring changes to society that we've made, and they help to right-size police departments too. Remember when?
I don't disagree.
Remember when the MMFLA, they passed it out of the legislature and it gave all this money to sheriffs and local cops and all these other things, and we were like, "What?
Yeah.
Come on, man, that's not right." And then we got a chance to fix it, and we did with the legalization proposal.
Mentioned it on this show, but of course, there's already been a bill introduced to try to help the police to grab some of those funds. In fact, this has to do with and we did discuss that letter, didn't we?
The letter from Zara and those from the Cannabis Caucus? Mm-hmm.
No, the letter that we signed for with them I Legalize and I believe Michigan NORML, and it was
For Dr. Sicily?
yes, about Dr. Sicily. Go over that again real quick, because I kind of
I
forgot.
think we kind of talked about it.
We did. The fact is, in the legalization proposal, we included a certain amount of money that would be earmarked for research on veterans and PTSD. And we had in our mind a particular study that's going to receive federal approval that we would like that funds to go toward to be able to fund it. Now, that fund is just about ready to receive those funds, and there's a move in the legislature now to change the destination for the money that we earmarked from that tax revenue. Instead of going to PTSD and veterans, it would go to study police officer suicides and other related issues. It would also include a requirement that the research be done by certain types of facilities and certain types of standards in Michigan, which I believe only conforms to like maybe one person or two people tops.
Yeah, it's totally inappropriate use of the funding. It was definitely not the intent. It's not even close to the intent. It's pretty outrageous. And it's probably, like Rick said, it's probably one of those tiered things like you see in the court system where the judge owns the testing place where they send the people to, it's all integrated. Somebody's making money, and it's
what
all
we've
wrong.
seen,
Totally inappropriate.
what we've seen is that one person having a conversation with a lawmaker, they can get that lawmaker to introduce a bill that favors them. They just did it by taking the exemption away from LARA employees for being forbidden from owning an MMFLA or an MRTMA business. So one conversation with your lawmaker can get a bill introduced, and it sure seems like this is what that was.
Yeah, they hope it'll slip through, but then there's people like us who are watching, so that kind of shit doesn't fly anymore.
What they've done, and we've all experienced this, 2014, 2016, 2018, they end up proposing this gigantic package of bills, all the crappy bills that they've introduced during the course of the year. They try to throw them all in a great big purse and then make us buy it sight unseen through the legislature.
In the middle of the night.
Yep, exactly. Oftentimes at the end of the year session, at the lame duck session, when there's no responsibility for your votes anymore.
Yep.
That's possible some of those things will happen this year, especially if the Republicans lose significant control of either the House or the Senate. We may see some of those bills like that weird one push through. I see Jamie's arm. It is an entertaining arm.
Worry.
Yeah, what's
Don't
going
worry.
on?
We're just trying to
It's
set
a
up
fake arm
something.
Jamie brought in as a prop so he can leave.
The man in the mask says, "Don't
his arm.
worry, I'm not reassured."
Arm there.
So, you know.
Yeah. Here, let me do it, Jamie.
No, I have to do this one part of it.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Wait, is Jamie under the table or
Go
something?
ahead and
The threesome's getting assignments, man.
about-
Just let it flow. Don't do rolls, man. It's a
Life
bad
is
mix.
Weird. Well, we can't have dead air, so somebody speaks something.
I'm lighting a joint from Young's Wonderful Farms. I think that's why I renamed your operation.
You can't
Young's,
light a joint and speak at the same time?
Young's Wonderful Farms. That's what it is.
No, it's Young's Organic Garden.
Oh, you already have a good
There we
name. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yog, your Yog. Y-O-G.
Damn it.
The Yog.
Uh-oh,
For the
Jamie's
clog.
frustrated. What's going on in that studio? I don't see anything
I
moving. I
know.
see.
Jim Salame has a cool looking studio going on there with all the sound absorbing foam on the wall there, Jim.
Yeah, and your favorite
Man.
I know, and,
Oh,
you're underneath
yes.
the sphincter. I love it.
Yeah, you love that.
Right.
I call it the belly button, but you call it the
Wow.
sphincter.
Wow.
I do.
It's Rick. Well, you know.
It's perception.
Yep. That's your point of fucking view. Uh-oh.
You know,
That was very well
can we make
done.
an
Call it
announcement?
Young's weed.
Is it okay
Oh.
to do an announcement here just before the
Please.
minute of 420?
Yes, yes.
While Jamie occasionally throws profanities out, but go ahead, squeeze it in.
Yeah.
So Home of Medicine on July 7th has Jeff Irwin
Sorry.
being
Yes.
streamed and talking about political engagement and how to approach that. And that's going to be on at 7 o'clock on July 7th. Jeff
Jeff's
Irwin
the best.
on Home of Medicine's Facebook page.
Yeah, he's the best. I love him.
What
He's really a great guy.
It's odd that you would mention that because Jenn Michelle Pedini from National NORML, who's coming on our show today, is coming to talk about a brand new activist training series of modules that NORML has launched that will allow people for less than $100 to get some basic training on how to advocate for their cause, whether it's cannabis, whether it's social justice issues, Black Lives Matter, Line 5, no matter what. It'll tell you how to interact with lawmakers, how to interact with your peers, and how to properly set up the structure that you need in order to avoid conflict within your own organization. And I
We're
think
gonna
Jeff
play
will tell you sometimes conflict within your own organization is a worse detriment than all of the haters on Facebook
Right.
combined.
That's
Hey,
true.
here's for- during break, right, a little after 420. What do you know? Razor Ray Reyes joins us.
420 Quan! What's happening?
Is this? I think it is. I can hear the breathing. I can hear the breathing in my ear. Tingling. Nice.
I was wondering, but how you doing?
How are you doing, man?
We should ask Ray the question. What was the question again, Rick?
Question.
No, it's no. The answer is no.
Okay, let Rick ask it.
Simple. It's simple.
Oh, Rick's
Asked
asking.
and answered.
Chris, you must ask the question from Flint to Ray, right here in the studio next to us. Because that makes the most sense.
All right, so Ray, I guess the question everybody was answered earlier today. Dan, what was the question, everybody?
Is cannabis as safe as we think it is? If not, what do
Jamie
we
had
gotta
it
be
all set.
concerned with?
Are you convinced cannabis is 100% safe for the human body, or do we still see some stuff every once in a while makes us worried about having too much?
What do you need to warn people about if so?
Man, I have absolutely no fear of cannabis. I think maybe that one time I ate just a little too many milligrams of brownie, but that, just got me to sleep really, really good. Other than that,
For 4 days, right?
for 4 days.
And one time we were at Third Coast a few years ago, and Ray ate an edible, thought it said 20 milligrams on it.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, it took a little nap for a minute.
I remember one time at Vehicle City Social where we couldn't find Ray for the longest time, and we were all searching and looking, and he was actually laying on a sofa on the stage. Actually, it was hiding in plain sight, but he was horizontal for a long time.
Hell yeah. I have one of
Classic.
those sweet naps.
That's right.
The hardest part though is when you wake back up and you're like still high and like your eyes are like trying to shut and you're like trying your hardest to like keep them open.
Trying to lift your head up. I was in a coma at opening day at Comerica Park one day with my head in my lap. I could not lift my head. I was conscious of everything going on, but I could not speak, couldn't lift my head for the entire game. I thought Dave was going to have to carry me out of the place. And
I shouldn't drive
I don't
into
know
that
if-
condition.
I rallied at the end, you know, and managed to stagger to the car, but it was really tight. So yeah, I mean, but I don't consider that dangerous.
You know,
Right? That's all part of the fun, you know. It's like,
when people get
it's
themselves
like you don't
whacked
go
like
swimming
that,
alone.
I
I don't go out
agree.
medicating alone.
when people get themselves whacked like that on alcohol, they buy that journey, soak their inhibition, you know, in their frontal lobe. When people get that high on cannabis, they don't tend to like not have inhibitions anymore and think it's a good idea to jump in the car and start driving around. You're going, oh, that'd be a really bad idea. I'm half awake.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a brownie I ate. It was a really intense brownie, boy. There used to be this little dispensary on John R. and 9 Mile, like just over the Warren
Probably Perry's.
border. Oh,
Probably Perry's.
oh my God, they had these. Second of them was like cash oil. They were so good.
See, there are some certain brands, certain items that carry over from the what we call the
Yeah.
legacy market into the new time. Captain Kirk is legendary for his edibles. I mean,
Right.
God, there's a lot of Michigan names that really made a name for themselves in that industry, and they shouldn't be left out of this new economy.
Yeah.
I believe they were called Sweet Leaf was the operation or the name on the product. It was delicious.
Yeah.
And very potent. If it knocked
There's a
me
lot
on
of
my
those.
ass, it was potent, believe me.
Some of those people will be able to find like a licensing agreement with somebody without having the, you know, enough resources to get in, have their own processing license and stuff. And some people are making those type of alignments, and there's many of
Just
them.
operating the way they always were. Don't you think, Jamie, some people are just operating the way they always
Well, yeah, that's
were?
fine
There's
too.
still
That's fine
a
too.
market for it, the
Yep.
other side of the dispensary. So yeah.
Yep, not judging
for
that
sure.
at all. People want to keep doing that. I mean, I have no issue with it. That's their own assessment to make. But if they want
just-
to get involved in the licensing thing, that's, you know, without the resources, that's the way that some people are doing it, aligning themselves
Yeah.
with like agreements with processors and stuff.
Well, and that's a very popular way
Yeah.
for somebody who's built something for themselves can end up getting paid out for all the work that they did. Someone
Sure.
comes in and says, I'm going to buy your image. I want to buy your product. I want to license your name so that I can distribute you throughout stores in Michigan. That's really what most people dream of as their end game for their hard work in small business.
That's basically what Sean's choice is, right?
I think that's true, Ray. I think some guys license Tommy's image, license the
Oh, yeah,
name,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
they
yeah. That's
produce
exactly what
cannabis
it
and
is.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What does Sean's choice have to do with anything?
He's got the, yeah. Colin's got the Chung's T-shirt on.
Wow.
He just stuck his.
What a great
Who's got the
reference.
chunk shirts? All right.
Oh,
I
man.
also
From
own
Curtis.
one of those. Those
So, and as
we
we
used
know,
to.
Shout out to Curtis.
Shout out,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Yeah, I was going to say Curtis
Yeah, I was
provided
in
those for
Michigan
the
before
my
too
legalized
It's
folks.
gonna be called Tommy Chong's brand.
That's right, they
Is
did.
what he said on the hashtag.
They made us change. Yeah, in fact, that was
Yeah.
one of the instructions I got. Make sure you don't say Chung's Choice. It's
Yeah, I think last time we had him on
brand.
one of the shows, I asked him about that, and he said, "Oh, we did the name change."
Yeah, it was you who asked
Call
him.
it this,
It was
you
you
know,
who
I'm like,
asked him
oh.
on the
Oh.
hashtag.
You know,
no, it
I'm
was.
glad- I
think I did,
His,
yeah.
his manager wrote me and said, make sure you call it this before.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you reminded me because I had forgotten all about that. What are we calling it? C-Murder? What's the new name?
Tommy Chong's brand.
Right.
Tommy Chong's
yeah,
brand.
Tommy
he
Chong's
said that.
cannabis.
Or
Actually,
something
like
Tommy
that.
Chong's
Yeah.
cannabis.
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy Chong.
So we got the
Tommy
the
Chong's
old school
cheesesteak.
t-shirts.
Yes. Okay.
We got some old school t-shirts.
Yeah, our t-shirts are old. We need to update those, Colin. I'll put that in your court. Contact Tommy, get us some new
They're gonna
swag.
come. Don't worry.
All right.
Thanks.
That's Ray's hookup. Ray's got the hookup with T. Chong,
Ray
though.
can move over this way just a little bit. Be like more in on the
Say what
camera.
up to them.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep.
Hey, guys.
Nope, we've had some fantastic experiences with Tommy in Michigan in general, but specifically in the Metro Detroit area. The things he's done in Hazel Park,
Oh, yeah.
some of the Rooster Tail events he's attended. You go to Ann Arbor, talk about his appearances at Hash Bash, always very well received.
Yeah.
It was cool
Nice
the
guy.
night of legalization when we arranged to have him on the tablet and basically, you know, just held up his head on the tablet. He was speaking in real time to everybody. We passed it around and
That was so cool. That was so
That was
cool.
cool.
Beyond cool. We passed it around. You can see, like, spoke to him face to face. It was very cool shit.
Yep, he addressed the room, asked him a couple of questions, holding the tablet up so everyone could see, and he was very excited for us. That's a good memory to have.
Really great. And we've got it on film. That's on film.
That was a squished room up at Cannabis Council in the music room there.
That was a party.
We
That was
were
one of the best parties ever.
tight.
So great. Oh my God, we'll never be able to do that again. But we don't need to because we managed to pass it. But
yeah,
that was fun.
Most people know there were 2 legalization celebrations that night. There was the fun party in Detroit at Cannabis Council that we all attended, I believe, except for Jim, perhaps. And then there was the event in Lansing. Jim, is that where you ended up at? Was the event in Lansing at the hotel?
No, I think I was working around that time. So I
was going to say, don't do that again.
He had no time
Come
for
with
celebration.
us.
He had an operation to run.
Yeah.
The hotel event up in Lansing was very sedate. A lot of people sitting around like this with glasses of wine, waiting for news.
Not smoking cannabis.
We were smoking huge quantities of cannabis. I was just rolling in it. And
every time
it gets on the Detroit news the next day, and then I was quoted in it on the front page of the newspaper.
Every time we got it
in the news, you sure were.
We got a polling update. I would run around and get everybody's attention. We'd get everybody quiet, and then I would say, and the new polling numbers are, and it was building lots of excitement. We were
here usually.
Okay, so
it was a lot of fun.
Trying to get on. He's having a couple of issues though, I guess. So we hope that gets straightened out. And meanwhile, with his banter,
Tell us again about the gentleman that's trying to get on. He's running for a position in the House of Representatives.
He is, and he's from Detroit also. We've had 2 candidates from Detroit, but there's several districts that run through Detroit for the House seat. And I don't know which district he is. I've looked at his information that he sent.
He'll tell us.
District number isn't on there. He'll have to tell us when he comes on. Very cool guy though. I've known him for a little while, and some other people in his family, and he's been engaged and involved with things in the city and the county for a long time. So it's appropriate that he run for this seat, and I happen to know that he is supportive of cannabis rights and that type of thing too. So we'll hear it all from him and what else he's studying. But this is our 4th in a row, I believe, candidate for House Representative.
Used to be.
He's
in the early days. Go ahead, Deb.
I was going to ask Jamie what's going on in your district with Shree against.
Recent thing.
Al Williams. What's going on there?
The most recent thing I know is he had these beautiful big signs up, like about a half a block down from me, in front of that purple building that's between.
Shree did or Al did?
Al did, and somebody stole.
Al did.
Meanwhile, Shree's putting up expensive billboards.
People are fucked up about signs. Yeah, but Shree's not going to win that. I think Al finally is going to have a chance here because Shree's not going to win that shit.
He does not.
What do you think? I don't think so.
He's on now.
I think we are joined by Mr. Reggie Davis.
Oh, hey, Reggie.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, man.
What up, brother?
Reggie Davis.
Jamie. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, I'm sitting here with a mask on because we're in
put mine on
right now. But I know you're doing a lot of work. You don't have to. I know you're doing a lot of work on the campaign trail, man. So I appreciate you taking some time to let us know what's going on with your campaign and kind of what you're stumping on. What district in Detroit are you seeking to represent?
That's Michigan State House District 8, Northwest Detroit.
Okay.
Yep, which includes Brightmoor, communities like North Rosedale Park, and Southfield Freeway area, Grand River. From I think our north border is 7 miles south of Schoolcraft. We've got to the west Telegraph 5 Points, and east is kind of sort of Greenfield for the most part.
Hey, I appreciate your mask too. I saw the George Floyd. I can't breathe. That's nice. That's cool.
Oh yeah, man.
We're in Redford right now. We're not too far away.
You know what? Before we get into what you're stumping on, I guess a question from a week or two ago that we asked everybody: Are you seeing the current uprising, the current response to the whole disproportionate law enforcement treatment and years of brutality, and finally the tension breaking and all of the response that's gone on for several days? Is that really affecting change as far as you can tell? Is that going to be something that will be everlasting and really turn the corner on some of this stuff?
Hey, Jamie, you said that the word is finally. I mean, cats that look like myself, this is nothing new at all. I mean, it's a terrible situation when I'm driving in my car, minding my business. I'm a citizen that's working. I'm paying taxes. I'm doing nothing wrong. I don't have felony on my record, which is not really a situation. But if I'm at a light and a police officer, someone in the car and a siren, and a guy in the car with a badge and a gun, they're just in back of me, and then my heart rate goes up. That should not happen. If law enforcement is there to protect and serve, then why should I be afraid when they come around me? It's only a black, I'll say it this way and I mean it. It's a definite. A black man is the one who feels this way when we're trying to get to wherever we need to go, and here comes a police car just pulling up behind us, on the side of us, whatever. We become afraid, or our blood pressure goes up. That's not right. So something needs to change. And it took Mr. Floyd, this brother, for his life to leave his body as a result of a police officer putting their knee on his neck, for us to finally say, hey, this is an issue. Oh my goodness, this is an issue for some people. We got to do something about it. So hell yeah, I'd be more than happy to be a great voice of that concern in the state of Michigan. I can't wait to represent black male leadership and issues that affect the black man who needs to be put back where we belong. And that's the leader of our family and the leader of our community. I'll tell you that.
Excellent. Do you think that the city of Detroit should be doing more to take advantage of the social equity opportunities with the cannabis industry?
Oh, absolutely. I just, hey guys, I'll let you know.
That's kind of a softball question.
And Jamie, you already know. Listen. Let me tell you this. I took a questionnaire, a candidate questionnaire, and I was probably the only one that gave the answers I did on that questionnaire. Yes, 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 yes. All yeses. Listen, for one, I have I'll pull it out right now if I can find it. Hang on a second, you guys. I have a little card that you guys may be familiar with. And Jamie, I think you remember when I first started getting this. You guys see that?
Sure.
So, yep, and that's medical marijuana. And see, I have issues. For one, medicinally speaking, it's important to me. I have a form of arthritis in my lower spine. It's incredible pain for me. I have anxiety issues, sleeping. I used to have a terrible habit of not being able to sleep at all. Just stay up for days, can't go to sleep. Bang my head into the wall, just going crazy. I tried every prescription med. I tried anything you think of for years. Then I got into the whole cannabis piece, and it wasn't the edibles, it wasn't the oils, it was actually a joint, old school, a tops joint with some the right kind of marijuana. I take a couple puffs. I'm not trying to get high. That's not my issue. It helped. I'm able to sleep very well after smoking for 1 year. So long story short, guys, I totally support medical marijuana in the sense, of us using it as medicine to make a better quality of life for ourselves. But at the same time, I don't see an issue with it being recreational at all. I have nothing against that. And I'm ready to stand up and speak on that issue immediately. I'm not afraid. I'm not scared.
That's great. I know that you've, some of your background includes crossing paths with the mayor and, in the inner workings of the city there, that kind of stuff. And just a lot of us believe that the city hasn't done enough soon enough and it's gone far enough when they do start talking about this stuff. And it's really a shame because it's, the value is just sitting there and it's not being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So give us a little background on your run up to this candidacy and the headlines of what you're stumping on.
Well, Jamie, you may know this. My namesake, we did a poll back in September. We did another one in February and just did one about 6 days ago. I admit that a lot of it has to do, a lot of times when people see names, the most popular name is the one that they go to. I'm very thankful that I've been campaigning actually all my life for where I'm at now. I am a 36-year radio broadcast veteran, and I had the #1 afternoon radio show in Detroit for years. I was on WJOB, WGPR, MXD. I'm a radio guy. They call me some radio icon or whatever. So my background comes from radio broadcasting. So the name Reggie Reg was the radio lingo that I used. And it just so happened in 2009, I decided to put my name on the ballot just to see what happens. I didn't even run a campaign. And I won a seat on the Charter Revision Commission. And I was able to sit with a great group of folk to take the language of the city's charter and, alter it to make it work better, make a better quality of life for Detroiters. And that led me to become appointed by Mayor Mike Duggan, in his first term as one of the district managers, deputy district manager in Northwest Detroit. And then I was given a seat as Wayne County Commissioner. Burton Leland, rest in peace, was a great, good guy, man. He was our commissioner, Wayne County Commissioner in Northwest Detroit, and he had cancer, and he was getting ready to pass on, and everybody wanted his seat, so he decided that I was the best guy for it because I reminded him of himself when he was younger. I answered directly to my constituents. I don't believe in having an office and a receptionist or assistant or whatever. The hell with that. If I'm in Lansing, when you call that number, nobody's there. When you call it, you're going to get a message with my voice on it saying, hey, call me on my cell phone. You elected me, call me, and I'll answer your call and I'll come to see you as soon as, immediately. And that's the way I do, my job. So now I have five major issues going up to Lansing's: gun violence reduction, mental health care reform, community economic development, prison reform, along with now I added this whole police reform piece, and auto insurance. So that's the areas that I want to concentrate on. And then of course my constituents, I see them every day, and they allow me to know other issues that they're concerned about. But believe it or not, when we do the polls, everything that I just mentioned are the tops, and I think that's the reason why. So gun violence again is my major piece because of the loss of my kid brother Vito. He was 19 and he was gunned down on the city streets of Detroit. He went to Denby High School, had a scholarship to Eastern Michigan, and he had a father and an older brother to steer him in the right direction. Just so happened one late night on the east side of Detroit, 5 other young men between the ages of 13 and 19 decided they wanted to rob my brother because he had good things, because he was doing the things he was supposed to be doing. And as a result, they took his life. And since that time, my family and myself have put together a nonprofit called the Ceasefire Youth Initiative. And what the motto is, we go into primarily elementary, intermediate, high school boys, and we mentor them, and have a lot of, we deal with a conflict resolution program. So that's the kind of thing that I wish to take up to Lansing. And black male leadership is on a decline. I always say that the black man at this point in time is an endangered species. So, it would take a police officer to have his knee on our neck for the attention to the light to be put back on us to see that, we need to come back. Detroit is the biggest black city. You got to have a black man, the head of the family, to be there for these young men, if you know what I mean.
Right. So, how does your race look? There are a lot of people in it. Has there been some polling as far as where you stand in the primaries coming up? Do you have any outlook on?
Yes, sir. So I was actually they're telling me that the type of polls that we're doing, I'm not allowed to really talk about them, but because they're not for public distribution or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But put it this way, the polls look damn good. There's 4 of us in the race. Again, my popularity helped me, but at the same time, I've been doing this work, Jamie, for many years on the radio. I wasn't just playing the songs. Between the Jay-Z and the Beyonce song, I come in the middle and in between the songs, and I talked to the young lady. Are you pregnant? Are you scared? You need somebody to talk to? You scared to talk to your mom? I have a number for you to call. Or, young man, you're in a gang, you want to get out, I want to help you. I refer to all my listeners as cousin. And the entire city of Detroit felt that we were related, and they would call me all the time. I would get my cell phone out on the radio, and they'd call me, and I actually had a chance to save lives, literally save lives. Young girl, I got stories, but I don't want to go there. I saved lives, and that continues today. So I think this is all a great thing. Those polls, as you were asking, they're in my favor, and I'm just out here working. You guys called. I forgot all about Jamie. I told you had to send me some reminders because I was out here knocking doors and going to the voters' homes that the clerk has on her list that she mailed out ballots to last week. So they're still receiving those ballots and getting ready to send them out. And I'm meeting them at their door, talking to them about my candidacy. So about my campaign and everything. So yeah, the polls look good, man. So we'll see. We got 4 weeks. It's like no time flat. Not a lot of time right now. So we'll see.
Let people know how they can learn more about you, possibly donate if they want to support your candidacy.
Yeah, you guys can go to, let me see, I try to keep it all in one, but we just put a couple new websites up, but Reggie Davis .Democrat, or it's kind of long, but the better one is Friends of ReggieRegDavis.com, Friends of ReggieRegDavis.com. And then you can also get me on, of course, the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Reggie Davis.
Nice. Hey, anything you want to make sure you get in before we end this segment?
Yeah, I just want to say I can't wait to I know the governor personally, Gretchen. I actually helped her with her campaign, and I can't wait to go up and be able to really start holding her feet to the fire. I think I give it to her for what she's done around this COVID deal, even though just more recently we're going back the other way, but she did an awesome job as a model, because we got the commander in chief, the top guy in the country, who doesn't get it for some reason, doesn't understand how to be a freaking leader, but she did a great job, I think, in showing other states how to deal with that, how to react to that COVID piece. So I'll just say, be safe. This is a brand new era. 2020 was something else. Shouts out to the class of 2020 for you guys just standing up and understanding. And, I just can't wait to go up to Lansing and represent my constituents.
That's great, man. Really appreciate you coming on, and we definitely support you here, and we need more lawmakers with that kind of attitude going up into Lansing, and we'll see if we can get.
All right. Thank you, guys. Hey, Jamie, hey, thanks, Jamie, for the opportunity, man. We got to get together one day, man, for a couple smokes or something, man.
Yeah. I hope your dad told you I moved to Detroit, man, so I'm right there.
Oh, yeah? Okay, cool, man. We got to get together, man.
No problem, man. I'm down. That sounds great.
All right, Jamie. Hey, thanks, man, for the opportunity, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Appreciate
Good luck.
you, brother.
Thank you,
Later.
man.
Be
Talk
good.
to you on the other
Have a good day.
side. God bless you guys.
man.
All right.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Just a fucking cool ass motherfucker.
And we got some good people running
This is
for
really awesome.
running for some, local.
That's a real person. That's a
House
real
seats,
guy.
yeah. It's a good dude.
It's to transition from a media personality like that and doing all that good on the radio to being able to still want to do good in your second career and choosing politics as your second career. That's great. What a good, Detroit really has a lot of people that could help it modernize its attitudes and philosophies about some things, including cannabis, but not just exclusively cannabis. He mentioned auto rates and auto insurance. Man, it's just stupid ridiculous in the city. So they do need a champion in Lansing to stand up to the insurance agencies to say this is incorrect. The way we do insurance in Michigan is a crime. I'd like to see them fix the way they do water pricing in Flint. There's lots of things that could be championed by the right person in Lansing.
I believe Al and Dave brought up auto insurance also. Dave Palmer and Al Williams.
Yeah.
District 3 and District 6.
Every go ahead.
No, I'm just sorry. Just mentioning that those 3 districts have been represented on the show. Go ahead.
Every single study we see that talks about national insurance rates versus what Michigan pays or versus what Detroit pays or some of the other urban cities, it's just shocking how they get us. They force us to buy this overpriced stuff that gives us no more protection than the guy who's paying half as much, who lives one county over.
One city over.
Yeah, on the other side of a block, really.
Yeah.
So, and I know that there's a whole matrix when it comes to how they do pricing of things and which people are most likely to cost us the most money, but that was the philosophy they used. So they wanted to charge old people more for health insurance, remember? And then they wanted to charge fat people more for health insurance, remember? And I think as a society, we said, no, we don't let you do that. Why would we let them charge us more for auto insurance based on our zip code if we refuse to allow them to jack things up in other instances?
They do charge they charge fat people more for health insurance. Fat people, I mean, David, he always calls it the fat tax on his health insurance plan. He has to be, and this is bullshit, he has to be a certain BMI. Otherwise, they pump us into a higher premium health insurance. We don't have any choice. You know, they do penalize you for weight, and they penalize you for smoking. They penalize you for all kinds of crap.
Yeah,
on health insurance.
We need to cut that shit out. You know, that's predatory on the lower economic classes.
Yeah,
lower economic classes have less access to healthcare, less opportunities to have smoking cessation, less opportunities for healthy meals. So they're more likely to fall into those high risk categories and therefore more likely to pay a disproportionate amount of their annual income in health insurance.
It always comes
And
down
those
like
things
that.
only become an issue when, you know, you don't have you're a developed nation.
Exactly.
Universal income.
Why you need universal.
healthcare.
Exactly.
And you have to give a shit about what, you know, where the costs are.
That's the whole argument right there.
Last night on Medical Mondays, I said that the VA hospitals should look like the Mayo Clinic. They should look like Harvard hospitals. They should look like hospitals for the rich and famous. We should be treating people so much better than we actually do. And the fact that you get good or bad healthcare based on where you live in the United States of America, that sounds more like a third world nation, or at least a third world mentality imposed upon a first world nation.
It's not just where you live, it's how much money do you have too. You know, if you have access to that top tier health insurance, that's going to get you the best care.
See, I noticed Jamie wiping down the cabinet mid-show. I wonder what kind of bodily fluid experience he just had that he had to sanitize up.
Yeah.
Well,
that was when we were just seeing his arm and nothing else. For
Ray's in the studio, so you know anything could happen.
I'll tell you what, man. This just has to do with these guys being really serious about having protocol in place so that we can do these shows in here, and I hope that more people kind of like do the basic mask and distance thing, because when we don't, the numbers go up, and it's like happening all over the place. It's really obvious now. So
yes,
you know, they have all these things here for us: the hand sanitizer, the wipes, the Lysol spray, the everybody's individual cover to go over the mics, all that kind of stuff, man. It's it makes it comfortable to be here and do this, and I'm appreciative of it.
I take the mic home thing, it's fuzzy thing.
Yeah.
What did Colin say? He's taking the whole mic home? Is that what he said?
I think Colin said he's just taking the fuzzy part home, which I'm not exactly sure how that doesn't seem hygienic, if you know what I'm saying.
Do you really want to know what I do with
No, it's like a big virus sponge, you know, it's just like soaking them all.
I know what he does with it. He puts it on his dick and makes it look like right off his it's called a cock throw.
Then he slaps Jamie in the face with it. Awesome.
So Jamie, we had
say that.
What was Al Williams is in
Sanchez.
Detroit second, right?
Yeah, your guest is coming on right now.
No, I don't see it.
Oh no, I thought that was the case. Sorry, false alarm. Thought it was.
Al Williams is in the Detroit second district, and this gentleman's in the Detroit. Did he say 5 or
He's
7?
in 8. I thought Al was the 3rd district, but he's in 8th and Dave Palmer 6th.
Mm-hmm. So we've really been featuring quite a few people that would do a great job in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, there's some there've been some good leaders through here, but some oddly just like really anti-cannabis, and to get kind of move that stuff out is good.
Yeah. Move them on out.
Jenn Michelle should be trying to join us here any moment. And again,
moving them out.
We're in slow motion over there, Deb. Yeah, we're waiting for
frozen.
to come on, but in the meantime, and that should be pretty interesting too, because she might have some, you know, she's the national NORML representative, so there's some insight that just comes with that, but she is going to discuss this really cool program that helps people in their advocacy and activism.
mm-hmm.
You know,
again,
I find it's interesting, like we're at such a turning point in our society because it's not just a couple institutions. A lot of institutions are having to change like how they operate because of COVID, because of everything, because of Black Lives Matter, and all these things are now changing. And it's not just, the law enforcement or healthcare. It's so many other facets.
We're gonna go here. Our
education.
guest has arrived.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
Now, Jim, we'll get back to you, man. Here we go. Rick, why don't you introduce our next guest?
Hi, everybody. This is Jenn Michelle Pedini. She's a national NORML representative. NORML just last week launched a brand new program. It's a certification advocacy program. It's a 10-piece program that allows people to get certified through the NORML organization for advocating for your social justice issue. Cannabis, of course, is the focus, but almost anything that you want to complain about or stand up for, this training would be helpful. And she's joined us today to help explain a little bit more about what the advocacy certification is. Jenn Michelle, thank you for joining us on Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me. So NORML, which is celebrating its 50th year working to reform marijuana laws, finally decided to dive face first into online education, and we partner with this incredible group, Green Flower Media, to produce the Cannabis Advocacy Certificate. I think that we are the 10th certificate course that Green Flower has. They are leaders in online educational content for cannabis, and we're really thrilled to partner with them. And what people can expect is to learn how to really be an effective advocate for cannabis policy change, whether you're already an advocate, whether you're just interested in this topic and getting your feet wet, whether you have an entire organization that you want to get ready to work, or if you are in the industry and you want to make changes wherever you are. This certificate program can really help empower you, outlines all the tools you'll need, from nonprofit management to energizing and engaging volunteers, building relationships with lawmakers, with government agencies, building a strong coalition, developing messaging, you name it, whatever you are gonna need to change marijuana laws wherever you are. It's really outlined for you in this program in great detail.
Jen, one of the chapters in this 10-step series is called Techniques for Defending Progress. And here in Michigan, we oftentimes have challenges defending the progress that we've made. There's certainly a lot of detractors hanging in the woods waiting for us. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that module implies and what the techniques might include?
Yeah, so, cannabis policy, like really any other law, frankly, it is not a sort of one and done situation. And very often, as I know you well know, Rick, you're not going to get everything you ask for the first time. You're going to have to come back and make it better every opportunity you get. And oftentimes that means defending the progress that you have made and making sure that regulations that are in place don't become more onerous, or in some situations become watered down. If you have really good consumer protections in place, you want to maintain those. If you don't have any, you want to build those. And if you have, restrictions on, let's say, who can be employed in your state in the cannabis industry, that might take some work on your end as well, making sure that more people can be employed and that they aren't prohibiting people with past marijuana convictions, for example. But really, once you've made that step forward with some amount of progress, you want to keep pushing forward. You don't want to roll that back or water that down. And the good news is that no state that has decriminalized or legalized medical or adult use has walked that back yet. So if these policies weren't working, then states wouldn't keep pushing forward with them. But remember, whatever ground you do gain, you need to stay on top of that and keep pushing forward.
I know we want to talk. Go ahead, please.
Wasn't there some ground lost in I know in Canada there was for sure, which is, you know, not United States, and home grows were taken away at some point along the way. And in Colorado, weren't there some reduction in what people could grow at some point? And they lost some ground there.
Montana too.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to kind of look at it from the perspective of, in particular with Colorado, they're, you know, the first sort of to really do this, to dive into adult use, and they didn't get it perfect on day one. So I think that in that instance, I don't know if that's really walking back progress or if that's just saying, hey, we probably didn't get this right the first time. And when you see laws that are being misused, that might have been intended to benefit the public, that are being sort of contorted to benefit those who aren't, I guess, adhering to sound principles for protecting consumers, you know, maybe that warrants another look at it.
We have a caregiver system here in Michigan that you're probably aware of, and it's been targeted almost since it got started. And the fear for us here is that will get peeled back at some point, with the argument being, well, we have this other commercial system already in place, we don't really need it anymore. But we don't think that agree with you. We don't believe that should be peeled back.
Right, and that's, you know, not necessarily the same as the situation was in Colorado, where what they were finding were, you know, giant grow houses in the suburbs. But that is a great example that you bring up of protecting, you know, policies that you have in place that are working in a positive way and that are beneficial to consumers, and you would want to make sure you maintain those.
Jen, it's a 10-part series, but it's all online learning. Is that correct? How would one accomplish an advocacy certificate?
It is completely online. You can do it on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. It's going to be formatted perfectly for whatever device you're doing this on at your own speed. There are 10 hours of content, and that includes video with myself, NORML's Deputy Director, Paul Armentano, and our good friend, Jax Finkel, who's the Executive Director of Texas NORML. And we provide all of that content. And then there is content that is produced by Greenflower that includes going to the NORML website, worksheets, and other video for advocates to work through at their own pace. And at the end of the course, there is an exam. And when you pass your exam, you get your actual certificate.
Well, of course, I'm always excited to learn that I've been pronouncing Paul's name wrong for a decade, so I'm sorry to Paul for that. But one of my favorite things about this program is the one thing we haven't talked about right now. What does it cost to get involved?
Well, the great news is the price point on this certificate is really low, particularly in comparison to some of the others out there. 10 hours of content, it is $97. So this is something that organizations can afford for their leaders and that an individual can afford as well.
Now, if you were to sign up for that program, is that part of a 501c3 or some kind of a C4 protected situation where it would be tax deductible, or is that just something that you pay in order to improve your life?
It's just a fee that you are paying to Greenflower for this educational content. The great news is that NORML does receive a donation. So a portion of your course fee does benefit NORML's work reforming marijuana laws around the country.
So $90 to NORML, 7 to Greenflower. I love that. Beautiful.
Wouldn't that be
good
great?
Negotiator. Probably not that.
No. I was going to say, someone last week actually sent me the link to the Greenflower Media and the NORML certificate program, and it's really cool to have you on this week. But I've used Greenflower Media before at a bud tender job, and it was really easy to use, and I can just imagine now how cool and interesting it'll be when I take the course.
Hey, that's so good to hear. I really love hearing that. It's awesome.
I was part of a national conference call when we talked about the rollout of this program, and you discussed with some of the other national NORML activists how you created this video series, and a lot of it is based on your personal experiences, what has worked and what has gone wrong in your advocacy campaigns over the decades. Can you talk a little bit more about how you aggregated all of these little individual interviews?
Yeah, so not only am I the development director for NORML, and I oversee our affiliate, our global affiliate network of dozens of chapters around the world. I live in Virginia and I serve as the executive director of Virginia NORML. So I have real world experience as the lobbyist here in this state, fighting for policy reform at the state level. A number of the experiences I share and that Jack shares are real world firsthand experiences of our own, in particular, you know, fighting in front of mostly conservative legislatures. For me here, I have been present for the, you know, initial implementation of our medical cannabis program and the push to improve that and expand that. One of the stories, the case studies that we share is about removing qualifying conditions here in Virginia. Instead of hanging different conditions on the, you know, Christmas tree of who qualifies for medical cannabis, we decided we would just take a let doctors decide approach. And instead of allowing the state legislature to decide, you know, to really make healthcare decisions for patients, we decided that was probably a choice better made by, you know, healthcare providers. And so we were able to use a let doctors decide message to push that through the legislature. And it was very well received. The legislature felt like it gave them cover, and it really gave them an opportunity to say, yeah, this isn't our specialty. Let's let doctors practice medicine instead. And
although I love the certification program, please go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the certification program, but I was already in love with the NORML website, norml.org, which includes an interactive map of the United States of America, which can allow you to search for any particular state's laws and their programs. So if you wanted to emulate something like a successful program from Virginia where they eliminated medical conditions, you could look up information about that right on the NORML site, and even have sample legislation that you might be able to inspire your lawmaker to introduce on your behalf.
Yeah, we sure do. And if you have any questions, you can always just shoot us an email at NORML. And in particular, you can get me and my team at chapters@norml.org, and we'll always point you in the right direction.
What is the best way for people to hook up with this new advocacy certificate?
Head straight over to the website. It is green-flower.com/advocacy.
That's great. Listen, Jenn Michelle Pedini, we certainly appreciate you coming here today to the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Much success to your program, and thank you for your leadership on a national basis for cannabis law reform.
Hey, Rick, thanks so much for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
We have had a couple of really good interviews today. What a great show.
You know, there's some discussion about how the coronavirus scenario, pandemic, is possibly helping to make a better case for cannabis legalization to help fill in some of the financial gaps that have been destroyed over the closing down of things for a period of time. I wonder her thought, you know, should have asked during that conversation, but maybe that's a reason to get her or somebody from National NORML back on. And I agree with you too, Rick, that National NORML site is really resourceful. I mean, probably more than you think. It covers a lot of ground. And you could go there and spend a lot of time without having to do much more research somewhere else really on a particular cannabis issue.
Let me follow up on what you just, go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say, I found it kind of interesting when you asked her about changes in amounts that people can grow and plant counts. And she said sometimes they didn't get it right at the beginning and then they changed it and got it. Is she implying that they had a really high plant count and they brought it down to something more manageable? I don't understand what that meant.
They could have unlimited patients at 6 plants apiece, and that was turning into some really huge grow operations that they thought got out of control a little bit. It's just, so and it was first, I guess. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
you know.
That explains it, because I was thinking, what is she talking about? I mean, what's she
Yeah,
talking about?
why
They
would
took it
less
from
plants be
12 to
better?
4? Exactly. Why would less
Right.
plants be better, for real?
No, but that explains why if you have unlimited plants, I can certainly see a system where people would perhaps not
It
follow
sounds bad.
rules.
No, people
it sounds
advocated
bad.
for that, so
Yeah.
we didn't think the public would accept that, just because, like Jamie says, it sounds bad. Unlimited sounds like,
Yeah,
somebody's gonna have
but
like
the
this.
reality
okay.
is when you have a place to grow, its resources only support so many plants. So just because you could theoretically have
Yeah.
plants, you're stuck physically with space that you have in the amount of resources you have.
You know, Jamie, you started mentioning about COVID-19 and the acceptability of cannabis in society. And I wonder if there were a lot of people who were sitting on the fence and they didn't know how they felt about cannabis. And then when governors declared it an essential business and service, maybe they actually did change their mind to say, wow, if all of the leaders in government believe that this is an important thing for us to keep open, maybe my attitude should adjust too. I wonder if that helped to drive the conversation.
Sounds plausible. Be interesting to have that conversation with somebody who was on the fence and just saw this unfold and thought, hey, maybe there is something here. Hey, Jim, you were saying something before, man, and I apologize. Our guest came on. You want to get back on that and let us know what you were talking about?
You know, I was on like a little stream of thought, and I know we had some downtime for a second. So I was just commenting on, all the institutions that are being looked at in our country, and the changes that are occurring. There was an old adage, people used to say the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that used to be very true. But I think that now it's no longer ever going to be that way. You're not going to be able to use that. And you're seeing these institutions just they're breaking down in some cases and being rebuilt, or, some of them are just morphing into something else that's a little bit more practical with what we need today for society, for everybody to be happy.
Right.
I think it's pretty visible to see statues crumbling. I think it's less visible to see institutions crumbling. But I see some of the confidence that average America had in their police force eroding. I see some of the realities that those of us in the cannabis industry have experienced on a personal basis now becoming real to a majority of Americans and not just something that we would write about in High Times magazine. I think now they get it, at least to a certain degree more.
Yeah, and with the tearing of statues and landmarks and things that represent some really bad history, I think that they should be put in some sort of museum or park in an area where people can go and learn about history and understand it more instead of hiding it. I think that is really important.
We have a place, Gettysburg, that's there to honor the Civil War. It features both Union and Confederate armies. It talks about their entire histories. If we wanted to celebrate, or at least maybe not celebrate, but commemorate that particular time, that would be the place to do it. I could certainly get behind a Confederate generate statue at Gettysburg, but at your county, at your state house.
I don't know, dude. I don't agree with having the statues anywhere, because I'm not saying that you would change history or revise history, certainly teach history, but a statue is something that you go to commemorate, to worship, it's a commemorative thing. It's an honor thing. It's not what are you saying, Jim? Put them on in
it has to be a private thing.
Could even go through. Yeah.
Well, I think of like a park where you would go and maybe there's a way you demoralize the statue.
I just have an issue if it was public land.
Throw shit at it and
slice them. Well, I just think if we hide.
That's a good idea for an entrepreneur.
No, I'm not suggesting hiding.
If we hide, I'm sorry. Let me just speak this, because I think if we hide that history, it's going to return. And if we're not teaching that history having occurred, it will return. History is it repeats itself. And I think
does a statue teach?
Yeah, I mean, we tore down the Saddam Hussein statue in Iraq.
Yeah. They don't have statues of Hitler in Germany. They don't have any of that kind of crap because it's illegal. They can't. But they don't.
Many of these statues.
They have not revised. They haven't revised that out of history. They're teaching that. We need to do a better job in America of teaching our kids. We don't teach our kids shit anymore. They don't have to take any type of civics classes. They don't have to take any type of history. It's crazy what the kids don't know.
They definitely don't get logic
and I know
and
that
science
sounds
as
weird,
much as they should.
Yeah, and science for sure.
You know,
Yeah, I don't know what the
a
hell's
lot of those
going on.
statues were commissioned and put out
To commemorate in honor
at
of.
a time, you know, a generation after the Civil War, during the return of Jim Crow laws,
Yeah.
you know, as a way to kind of glorify that whole thing. So their legitimacy in some regards is
Glorified and to a
white supremacy shit on
population.
public land. That's
You
what I
know,
have an issue with, man.
I'm not suggesting every statue going to one place.
You meant
And I'm not
every
suggesting
statue.
It's gonna be like
them
the island of
in
the
any way.
statues.
I'm just saying we need to find a way to remember it, and that was one way of expressing that. So there's got to be something that we still instill with our children and our children's children that lets them know that this can't happen again. It did happen, and we're smarter than that now.
Are we getting an idea of how Hitler was able to do his thing from watching this loyal support for Trump at times?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to be factual. You just have to be frequent in the things
Yeah.
you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
In marketing, we talk about repetition is the key to retention. The more you
Yeah,
say a brand name, the more you show an icon, the
Right.
more likely someone is to remember it. Same thing goes with lies. The more you
And
say
pick a group,
it, the more
pick a
people believe it.
scapegoat group like immigrants. You know, something that everybody can feel like they're better than, and that's how this type of shit starts. You're better than. Somebody has to be below you, and that's what's causing all the problems. It's not you, it's somebody else that's evil, something else. This is the kind of shit that starts the kind of shit that started in Germany, for sure.
It is the responsibility of the majority in society to safeguard the freedoms of the minority, because
Yeah.
otherwise the minority becomes a servant class.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what
for
happens.
sure.
And we are in the majority. It is our responsibility to make sure that in employment, in military, in education, in housing, in food access, and healthcare access, that we don't have a difference between the people who don't number very much and the people who number a lot. Because in reality, the Constitution tells us all lives are supposed to matter equally. But in
Sounds like
America,
socialism, Rick.
they don't. I don't care what it sounds like. It sounds
I'm
like
just
logic and a
saying,
beautiful
I'm
way to
not
live
saying
to
that's
me.
bad. I'm just
Yep.
saying that's what we're talking about. So
Paul
you know, the
Samways likes
American
to
people,
label
I think, are a lot more
socialism.
open to that now than they would have been.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that what the question you would ask the representative, the guy Reggie Reggie, what was his name?
Reggie, yeah,
Davis.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Reggie Davis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you asked him if he thought that the civil unrest was going to make changes, and I really think it is, and I think that a lot of things are going to change. I think when people get all riled up like this, you know, you have to seize the moment, you know, and there's going to be some changes, and people are going to be surprised, and a lot of that 30% of Americans who are running around with the MAGA hats are going to be real surprised, I believe, because the rest of us ain't
Cognitive
taking it
dissonance.
no more.
Well, that's always been the shouting point, is that there's not enough of us that believe. The rest of them must just be, what is it, hypnotized, or we're sheep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're sheep. Because
Sheep.
yes, because the small number of people believe they're enlightened, and the large number of us they think of as the uneducated. They're always going to feel superior, no matter what. The flat earthers feel superior to the rest of us round earthers. I mean, come on.
There's some,
Well, I don't know. I think
There's a little, there's a little
you're
discussion.
speaking for that. I don't know.
There's been a little discussion flying around about Trump possibly wanting to avoid a humiliating defeat in November and just kind of step
Yeah.
before that actually takes place.
And resigning, that's what I heard, so I can get a pardon.
Yeah. Either
Biden.
resigning or not running again, saying, you know, his job is complete.
Oh, yeah, so he goes down, Pence comes up in the last couple of months and pardons him. Okay,
Yeah,
good call.
pardons. And
Yeah, he gets,
Well,
I don't
Look-
know if Pence can though, because he might be.
he can't, well, he couldn't do anything for stuff that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So after November or whatever, after January, you know, he
Here's-
can actually get indicted.
He could just walk away.
after this
Just
Republican
pack up and
convention
leave.
that they're going to force in July, what is it, Florida? Deb, they're going to do
Yeah.
the Republican convention
Yeah,
in
Florida.
Florida.
Florida's like, no,
Find out where
don't,
the
we don't
pandemic's the
want
hottest and then go there.
The land of sick
Exactly.
old people. Yes, let's bring the disease. Woo.
We just need
You can't
people to
make this
vote
shit
in
up, I
November.
swear.
We
In
need to-
Oklahoma to
people
spray
need
to
before he
start
went
talking
there.
about
Jim, I believe that's true. I think that we can do it. We don't have to put up with it
Yeah.
anymore. If we everybody go out and vote in November or from home. You don't got to go out and vote. Just do it any way you
That
can
should
do
be the
it.
main focus right now for everybody to get registered and
Yeah.
find out.
Get out the vote.
We still have a lot of anti-Biden people that don't want to go Democratic because they don't particularly agree with Joe. But this is really a situation where you are faced with an incredibly stark choice. It is either
Yeah.
guy number one or guy number two. You may have reservations about both of them, but one of those is actually a human asshole. So try to vote for the guy who's not a human asshole.
Both are
Yes.
the degree of assholosity. as
Oh
far
my
as
God. That's what it looks like. That's what his anal cavity looks like, I'm sure. So
You, Rick.
Ray, you didn't jump in on the anal cavity.
like
That was
the
an
way it's
opening for you.
poised. Right over you.
I was about to say, you know, so you gotta vote for the asshole with the least amount of anal retention.
Ray,
Vote for the lubricated asshole,
I'm
not,
kinda concerned
not the
about
other
you.
one.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, it is true that we end up with sometimes two lessers that we have to vote for, that we don't get the candidate that we really wanted. But
This isn't even close, dude. Come on.
no, of course
He
it's not.
was
It doesn't
last
matter
on the
though.
list.
Doesn't matter though. It's like there's two
Doesn't
flavors of ice cream.
matter.
Pick one. You pick the one
Right.
you don't
I just
like,
can't
or the
even,
one.
You can't get Neapolitan.
Yep.
or the one that's
Can't
spoiled
get
grown on it,
chocolate
you know?
either. It's either
Yeah.
vanilla or vanilla bean.
It's vanilla.
Yeah. Or vanilla bean. That's nice.
Well, there might be some chocolate sauce though. I mean, isn't Biden promising us like a black female? So there might be some
He's promised
chocolate
us
sauce.
He said
black
a female, but it would make
and
sense to get
flags,
a.
but I don't know.
Oh, no, he said a woman of color. That's what he
I
said.
thought he just said a woman. That's what I
I
thought.
don't recall the woman of color, Bart. I don't.
But I do think that
this
most people
maybe
believe
this
it
is
will
my
be a
view.
woman of color because there are some good candidates that are available. That would cover some good ground
Yep.
demographically.
Yeah.
Well, look, here's where we've seen the Democratic National Committee fumble before, right? When it comes to picking VPs or helping the nominee select somebody,
Hillary's VP
they pick
pick.
people that
Jesus
just,
Christ.
you know. So,
It's true. It's so
Was it
true.
Dean Kane or something like that?
Tim McCain.
Yeah.
Tim
Oh.
Kane,
Horrible.
Tim Leprechaun that escaped from the movie theater set. Kane.
Oh,
Dean Kane.
sounds like
Oh, if it was Dean Kane, she'd have won that shit. The women would have voted for Dean
Well,
Kane.
I don't know.
Little Superman action. Yeah, look, snaps. Yeah.
stop.
So
Not
the
true.
fact is, you know, they could really make a big mess of this. They could pick somebody that they think is going to be palatable, or they could work with, and it'll totally alienate the people in the Democratic Party, and we'll have a split, and Trump will end up with 4 more years. They could still
I don't
do it.
know. Have you seen the list of the women that he's apparently been interviewing and talking to? I don't think any of them would alienate the Democratic base. Do you?
I haven't really seen, but I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Stacey Abrams. I'm seeing Gretchen Whitmore.
Provided he sticks with that. If he for some
what's her name?
reason jumps to a
Duckworth?
guy,
Tammy Duckworth. No, he said it's going to be female. Tammy Duckworth, which I mean, she would go after Pence because that's the vice presidential role, is to rip up the vice president on the other side. That'd be awesome. She would tear him up. What could they say about her? Isn't she a war veteran who had her legs blown off? Isn't that what she is? She's like a senator or a congresswoman. That's who she is, right? How could they attack her, Rick?
Yes, that description is very difficult to give somebody some shit over. I wouldn't put it.
Yeah, exactly. What could
but
they
you're
possibly
assuming
say?
you're assuming these people have morals, which I don't think they do. And secondly, you're
I know,
ignoring
but
all the you're ignoring the past history. Our president made fun of a handicapped guy by going,
Yeah,
remember he made
did.
fun of a Gold
I
Star
forgot.
family in front of the whole
Well,
world.
You're right.
Made fun of
You're
McCain,
totally
man,
right.
as a prisoner of war.
You're totally
Yes,
right.
he did.
He held his naked woman up for the world to see, his naked wife and shit. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
So
But she
when
would
we-
go after him. I mean, she would go back at him where some people would, you know.
part of the
tear
role
him
of the VP is to be such an attack dog that the president
That's
doesn't
what I'm
have to be
saying.
that much of an attack
Right.
dog. So
And she
this
would,
is-
and she's the one, because she's righteous. I mean, the woman is righteous. And even if you don't exactly agree with her, what can you say bad about somebody like that? I mean, come on.
And that attack dog could find a lot of meat on those bones when it comes to assaulting the Trump administration's record over the last 3.5
Who
years.
else is on that list? Jim, do you know who else is on that short list? Have you heard?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, yeah.
That's the one I always hear.
Stacey
Yeah.
Abrams is who I hear. So
Yeah.
Abrams.
So I mean, who of these people we're talking about would alienate the base? None of them.
no. If he were to not choose a female, if he were to break his word and vote and get a male as a vice presidential
alienate
candidate,
the
that's the
base.
kind of stupidity the Democratic National Committee has done before, and that would alienate all the female Democrats that have tried to support him already.
I do
That would
not
cost
think
him
he
the
should have
election.
made that pledge. I agree with choosing a female candidate, but I would have never made that pledge. I would have never said I would have said I'm going to choose the best motherfucker that I can find.
Yeah.
Simple as that, you know.
Well, what they said was that
And then I would have chosen a black female.
those suburban female voters are the
On the
ones that gave
slide.
Trump the election they talk about, because he's already got most of the suburban males, and urban males are mostly gone to the Democrats. It's the suburban females. And if he were to start slamming or denigrating a woman who is running for office, I think he's going to lose.
CNN's got some analysts looking at who they think would be the best running mates.
I don't know, slamming women, grabbing them by the pussy. What's the difference?
So
He didn't lose last time.
the analysts, these political analysts at CNN believe that the three top choices would be Kamala Harris, Val Demings, who I have not heard of, looks
I don't
familiar,
even know who that is.
She's great.
and Susan Rice, who I have definitely heard of and would agree with would be a good candidate for sure.
Val Demings is a long-term House representative. She's fiery. She's very good. Wow.
Looks very familiar. So that's all these
She
people are
oftentimes appears on NBC or ABC, CNN's shows.
Susan
to talk
Rice
about
is
stuff.
not the one that was voting in the wrong direction on the impeachment stuff, is she?
No, I don't believe so. No.
Somebody with the same name, like a senator like that, who was like voting the wrong way.
Susan
could be
Rice was
wrong.
the one on the tarmac in the plane with Bill Clinton.
Oh.
Discussions. I forget what the discussions were about for whatever reason.
I know I remember the name. Something.
Susan
There's
Rice.
something.
She was
something.
she was like Barack Obama's national advisor.
Yes.
She was.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
why
I remember
would-
seeing her before.
As I was ready to clarify.
Different shows.
I was really hoping it was Condoleezza Rice after her sex change operation, but I
No.
was once
Stop.
again
It'd be cool.
stymied.
It would be cool if it was
Terrible.
bring Colin Powell back for a cabinet position or something like that.
I think he's retired. He doesn't want to come
He
back.
probably doesn't want to
He's
screw around
chilling.
with any of that
Yeah,
shit.
he's chilling somewhere. He's
He was
like,
one of-
fuck that.
He was so
They got the
bummed out
corona.
when they duped him into doing that presentation about the
Yeah.
nuclear weapons in Iraq. He was pissed when he realized what a ruse that was that he participated in.
This is going to be an interesting election cycle. I mean, locally, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens. I'm excited about Al Williams because he's run a few times and bumped up, against some real heavy hitters, and I think he's going to do real well against Shree. Just saying, because Shree comes off. I mean, we all know about Shree, right? So I think Al's got a good chance. And then the national shit.
I've never read.
This is going to be
This road
crazy.
trip.
This is
Deb,
what
can you
Trump-
imagine Sri Tanandar knocking doors in the city of Detroit?
This
Can
is
you
what
imagine
I'm saying
that?
with his
He doesn't
toupee
like to
on,
leave the room
because he's
without
totally
it.
bald. That's a fucking toupee
Right.
and shit. Do you remember seeing him at the convention
Oh,
when he was
man,
walking
I-
around and this
I
guy was
just remember-
following behind him
Screaming at him.
with the tray of
No.
fried chicken? And he
You
was
could
like,
probably walk
swatting
around,
at- I mean, it was fucking
It
hilarious.
was
You
hysterical.
probably walk around Palmer Park and
It
be all.
was. You've seen him,
Pretty
Colin,
close.
right?
I witnessed Shree in person
That's funny.
action too many times.
Yeah.
Concert a lot
We
of
had him on Planet Green Trees, you remember?
He,
Jim was
He came out, he's been on Jazz Cabbage.
he's been on Jazz
Yeah,
Cabbage.
I remember. I can remember.
We have an
Talking about his
episode.
book and shit. Right? It turns out
moderated-
he's like 80,
When I knocked doors in Detroit, I swear, man, everybody was gonna vote for him. There was tons of like Shree
Rick
signs.
conducted a gubernatorial Democratic, any candidate for governor early on in
Yeah.
Salame.
I remember it.
That's what you're ready to talk about, isn't that right?
Yeah, Sri was there. He was he and his campaign. He made sure that I got a copy of his book, The Red
His
Suitcase
book.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh, the
I think
blue
it's the blue
suitcase.
suitcase.
Blue
Or
suitcase,
something,
okay.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. And then the story came out about
magenta
this
suitcase.
laboratory he owned where they were like torturing
Magenta.
needles and shit in there, and they left these dogs in there like
Right.
with no food and water. You remember that? And it's like, oh, he's done.
Oh,
And
the
you know-
lab, yes.
you can't run from that because the internet never forgets.
you
So
can't.
every time you run
Yes.
for office, your detractors will be able to use it against you for
People were
eternity.
freaking out about that.
Whether it's deserved or not. I mean, he was associated with that horrible incident. You should, I don't know. I think Al has a fight ahead of him because Shree's
he
got a
spent
ton of money.
millions.
Shree's got
I
a
was
ton
gonna
of
say,
money.
Up billboards
he's got a
and shit like
buttload of
that,
cash.
man.
He spent
got
more
signs
cash
all over
than
the
everybody
place.
rolled in together. I bet, Jamie. Has he knocked on your door yet? Oh, Jamie's got the barbed wire around.
No,
We can't
no,
get close to
I
the
wouldn't answer
compound.
it.
You know, he's got that electric gate and shit. Nobody can get in there.
Yeah.
Instead of release the hounds, Jamie will shout, release the chihuahua, the three-legged one.
Three-legged one would scare him away.
Yeah.
Fearless,
Sherm.
obviously.
Sherm in action.
Yeah. In Detroit, though, probably not the most menacing of creatures you're going to encounter. So
I don't know. I just wanted to touch Shree's hair. That's every time when I got
It's a
Least we
wig,
arranged
dude.
that.
If you want to touch
I don't know.
Shree's hair, I'll take you over to the beauty supply on 8 Mile and you can touch the wigs because that's all it is. It's like
that's so funny.
You can go to
That's so
karaoke.
funny.
Don't
It's
go,
true.
Colin.
Maybe they can
It's
do
a
my
total wig.
hair and
I saw a
Shree's,
picture of him without it on.
Go to Goodwill and start fondling a weave.
Oh.
Yeah, dude, come over, pet my dog over here. You want to feel Shree's hair?
I just kind of want to pull it off. See if it goes.
I mean, no offense. Maybe you'll give us some money in the future, but dude, that was funny. That was funny.
Well, Shree had to come
He's-
back on
he's
and
got a lot of
explain
money.
himself, remember?
What's that?
It's hard to communicate with. I hear.
Yes, you're waving out. It's a great like
I remember the was on either Plants Cabbage or on to clarify because because Jim Powers was going crazy after he got off the line. He came back the next week and clarified, which means he totally changed his position on something. What was it? I can't remember. Do you guys remember?
Shree changed the position or somebody else?
Shreek.
Shree.
I don't remember.
Oh well, I can't hear anymore.
I still like so the difference between these guys for me, right off the bat, if I'm coming into the area kind of third party observer, just seeing what's going on in my new place I'm gonna vote for. And I know that one guy is multimillionaire, moves into the most affluent neighborhood in the area, starts campaigning. And then another guy of the community, 4 years, been politically engaged for a couple of decades, is really active and understanding of all the real issues of that area. That's the guy who I support.
It's Al's time. I mean, like I say, he's run a couple real hard races before, but I feel this is his time. I'm
all the way back to when we were
happy for
doing
him. I'm
things in
glad for him. It's a
Detroit.
good thing.
Al was around Cannabis Council, around Woodward Health Solutions. Al's been around, made appearances throughout Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County.
Yeah, he's worked with some good people.
Yeah.
So,
It's nice to be able to use our platform to help
Al.
give a leg up to those people that you think deserve it. It's
Absolutely.
kind of a cutthroat job nowadays being in politics. So maybe we can help some folks make a proper decision about who to vote for.
Well,
Right on.
it is called politics, you know.
So just a reminder, we end about 5:45 because of the Cave Radio Studio new.
Oh yeah.
Gives us a few more minutes to wipe stuff down and get it ready for the next people coming on in. So we just have a few minutes left. Just want to remind people about that. And we didn't get to the news, looks like, this time around.
We'll do it later. Jim, can you tell our listeners again one more time about that special event at Ohm? Because I thought that was really cool with Senator Irwin.
Jeff Irwin, yeah. Senator Jeff Irwin live streaming July 7th at 7 p.m. Through the Ohm of Medicine Facebook page, talking about political engagement, like you were saying, a lot like we saw today from the person from NORML, talking about engaging with cannabis stuff. Was that good?
That's great. You did that while simultaneously hand sanitizing, so informative and cleanly.
Thank you.
And Senator Irwin will be on planting green trees a week from Thursday to discuss the expungement bills. In the Senate.
He's the
So
best.
what, talking about Planet Green Trees, we know is Thursday each evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jim, is there a traditional or a regular OHM broadcast we could make people aware of?
Not just yet, but I wish I could report that. Yeah. Thank you.
Colin MacDougall, what about in the psychedelics world? What do you got going on, buddy?
Psychedelic world, it's always happening. It's just a vibration away. Nothing really new is happening. The next Michigan Psychedelic Society meeting is going to be in Ann Arbor on, I think, July 18th.
Like a park.
Park outside.
I was reading about that.
There was no Lansing meeting this month. And on the decriminalized nature side, if we're still like trying to get people to submit videos of themselves talking about how psychedelics has helped them or their friends or immediate family. Testimonials. So that's really all on the psychedelic world.
We also have the survey.
Oh yeah.
The survey is on Facebook right now, and it's just a small survey, anonymous. Just trying to get a gauge of people in the local area and their feelings on entheogenic plants.
And what Facebook page would they go to, Jim?
DNA 2.
Very
Okay,
cool.
Decriminalized Nature, Ann Arbor.
DNA number 2 on Facebook group. Good. Jamie, what's going on? Botanical Company, got anything coming up?
You know, the next thing coming up, and I've said it a few times, but it does not hurt to mention it again, July 25th, the Botanical Company is going to be working with, sponsoring the Northeast Michigan NORML group, highway cleanup. And on that same day, Ray Reyes will be hanging outside the building and rocking out on his loop station and guitar.
Yep, which is what I was about to say. So yeah.
And in the fall, we'll have Debra McCarty back up there again with him handing the check that we raised from the event earlier in the year, the money raised for youth hockey. That he's into doing that. We just had to reschedule because of the pandemic, obviously. I hope all these things happen. That would mean that we are still at least moving forward or not going backwards. But then I just hope that people kind of like now will realize that there's a connection between these practices and having the increase in cases, spikes and surges.
Jason Durham is now in Oscoda, and he tells me that he's doing a special podcast where he interviews cannabis heroes. It would be great while we have Ray up north to possibly get him in front of Jason's cameras and see if we can't get that recorded. Since
Love
it's,
to do that.
That sounds like a good one.
we'll make it happen.
Love that, brother.
That sounds like a good one. Hey, we're just at 5:45 seconds left, so that's going to be it for today. Really appreciate everybody's involvement. Another good show. We're going to keep going. We'll be back next week and hopefully add another layer and smooth it out a little bit. Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Good seeing everybody. Y'all have a good day.
Night.
Later.